Talking about the Ketayres in the Beis HaMikdash, we're on Daf Nun Gimel, Amud Aleph, the top line. We continue with the Avodah of the Kohen Gadol and placing the Ketayres in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braisa. It says in the Pasuk, V'nasan as HaKetayres ala eish, he places the Ketayres on the fire, L'fnei Hashem. That's done, L'fnei Hashem, which means inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So what does this mean? You do not place the ketayres on the fire and prepare it outside in the heichal, and then v'yachnes, and then bring it in once it's fully prepared. And the Braisa explains why we're saying this. Lahoitzi milibon shel tzedaikim. This is to exclude from what the tzedaikim said. Sha'imim, they say yisakim b'chutz, prepare the ketayres outside, and then v'yachnes, bring it in once the ketayres is already on the fire. My daughters. How did the tzedaikim say this? Why did they make this mistake in their interpretation of the pasuk? Because it says, Ki ba'anon eiroa al hakapayres. With the cloud of the ketayres on the fire, the Eibishter says, I'll be seen by the kapayres. So what does this mean? Melamed, that would teach me, sheyisakim b'chutz, you prepare it already from the outside, and v'yachnes, and you come in that way. Because it says, when you come in, you're already coming in with the smoke of the ketayres, it's already all done and prepared. Chachamim responded to their interpretation of the pasuk, but it says in the pasuk that we quoted in the beginning of the Braisa, that you only place the ketayres in the fire where? L'fnei Hashem. Only L'fnei Hashem, which is inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Braisa explains, what does the pasuk mean when it says that there should be the smoke that the Eibishter should be seen with by the kapayres? Melamed, that's not coming to tell you about the timing. That's coming to tell you shenoisim ba, that you have to add an ingredient to the ketayres, and you add the ingredient of maila ashon. It's some kind of a herb that causes the smoke to come out as a straight line, as like a stick. That's what the pasuk is saying. Ba'anon eral hakapayres, referring to this ingredient that you add to the ketayres. Now the Braisa continues and seemingly repeats itself. It looks to be mamash a redundancy, and the Gemara will address this. But the Braisa asks again, from where do I know that I add this ingredient of maila ashon? Shenema, because the pasuk says, V'kisa anan haketayres asakapayres, that the cloud of the ketayres, the smoke of the ketayres, will cover the kapayres. And how do you cause this smoke to come out in the right way? You have to put in this maila ashon. So then the Braisa concludes, if you do not add this ingredient of maila ashon that causes the smoke to come up, or or you're missing one of the 11 ingredients of the samamonim of the ketayres, and you bring it in this way, chayiv misa. You'll be chayiv misa, because that's what it says in the pasuk, v'lo yomos, that you have to bring it in with all the samamonim, including with the ingredient for the smoke to come out. Otherwise, you chayiv misa. That's the Braisa. So the Gemara will address two parts of the Braisa. First, it addresses the last point here, that it said that if you're missing an ingredient, you'll be chayiv misa. Says the Gemara, why do I need a special pasuk to tell me that if you're missing an ingredient of the ketayres, you're chayiv misa? Why can't I learn out this fact that you'd be chayiv misa from a more general thing that we know? The kama'ayil bir ekonis. If you come into the Kodesh HaKadoshim empty-handed, so then for that itself you're chayiv misa. So if you're missing an ingredient, so it's like you're coming in empty-handed, because the ketayres you're bringing in is worthless. It's not the ketayres the Eibishter asked you to bring in. So just like if you would come in totally empty-handed, you're chayiv misa. So if you're missing an ingredient, it's a bir ekonis. So why do we need a special pasuk here to say that if you're missing an ingredient, you're chayiv misa? So the Gemara gives two answers. Amar Rav Sheishes. One answer is hacha b'mayaskino. The case here is kagain sheshogag b'bir, regarding bir ekonis. This Kohen Gadol was unaware. He was mistaken. He didn't know that there's any issue of coming in empty-handed. So if he was unaware, so for that he won't be chayiv misa. But for his baktara, but he was aware that if he's missing any ingredient, he would be chayiv misa, and he came in anyways that way. So because the mazid was only regarding this issue, this isser of missing an ingredient, so that's the case where it's relevant to tell us that he's going to be chayiv misa for missing the ingredient. Rashi says another answer. The case could be that this Kohen Gadol realizes that there's two problems. There's the mazid for the fact that he's coming in empty-handed because he doesn't have the proper ketayres, and there's also the mazid for the fact that he's using ketayres missing an ingredient. That's another isser as well. And for both, you would be chayiv misa. So why do we need separately for each one a different pasuk to say that he's chayiv misa? The kagain, the ayil shtei haktares. He's bringing in two he has two handfuls of ketores, or two kapos, two cups of ketores, or ladles of ketores. And therefore, what happens over here? Achas shleima. One of these cups are full with all the ingredients. V'achas chaseira. And one of them is missing an ingredient. Abiya loy mechayev. For coming in empty-handed, he's not going to be chayev, because the ha'ayah leishleima. He's coming in with one ladle of ketores that has all the ingredients in it, and therefore he's coming in with something. He's not coming in empty-handed. But a haktara mechayev, but he will be chayev for doing a haktara of the ketores, missing ingredients, the kamakta ketores chasera, because he brought in another ladle of ketores which is missing the ingredients, and for that itself, for being makta ketores, missing an ingredient, you chayev, even if you have the other ketores that is full, but if you also makta ketores that's not full, for that itself you're going to be chayev misa. That's why we need a separate pasuk to say you'd be chayev misa.
He's walking in with an extra half.
Yeah, he's walking in with, let's say, in one hand he has a machta with the fire, and in his other hand he's holding two ladles, one that's meleya and one that's chasera, and he's chayev for the one that he's chasera. Now the Gemara goes back to the first part of the Braisa, where it says that you have to add the ingredient of mala oshon, and the Braisa brought two psukim. It asked the question twice. Amamar, in the Braisa it said a second time, Umenayin shenoisim ba mala oshon. From where do I know you have to add this ingredient of mala oshon? And Talmud Loima v'chisa brought a second pasuk, v'chisa nana ketores. So the Gemara asks, Kra lekra. The Braisa is bringing one pasuk, and then it needs another pasuk to prove what it says already in the first pasuk. Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef explains, Hachikama. This is how you read the Braisa. It's not bringing two psukim for the same thing, it's adding a detail. Einli ella ola, my loshon. In the first pasuk, I would know that you can bring one of the leaves of this Maila Oshon to use it for the smoke. Iker Maila Oshon minayin. How do I know that I could use the root of this herb or whatever it is to create this smoke? How do I know that that's acceptable as well? Therefore, we bring the second pasuk, Talmud Loima v'chisa nana ketores, that as long as you have, whether it's the leaf, whether it's a root, but if it's going to cause the smoke to come out, it's acceptable. Amalei Abaye says regarding this pshat, but we learned in the Braisa the exact opposite. The Tanya in the Braisa we learned as follows: Nosam ba ikke ma'ila oshon. If you place the root of this ma'ila oshon, hayimetame va'ile kamakal. What it would do is it would cause the smoke to come up straight like a stick. Adshem agil l'shmei kaira, till it came to the ceiling, and then kivim shagil l'shmei kaira came to the ceiling of the kodesh kadoshim. Memashmish miyarid b'ksalim. It goes to the sides and it comes down on the walls. Adshem esmala abayis oshon, and the whole room of the kodesh kadoshim gets filled with smoke. Shenema ba'abayis yimole oshon. So what do we see in this braisa? It speaks about putting the ikir of ma'ila oshon, the root of the ma'ila oshon. So that seems to be more preferable. Elama Abayis. Abayis says you're right, so you have to say the pshat in the reverse. When the Braisa brings two psukim for the mitzvah to add this ma'ila oshon, this herb, so you read it as follows: Ein le'ele iker ma'ila oshon. I would think you must have the root of the ma'ila oshon to bring out the smoke to come up straight like a stick. Ala ma'ila oshon. If you use a leaf of this ma'ila oshon minayin, how do I know that that's acceptable as well? Talmud Loima v'chisa. The pasuk says v'chisa that the leaf causes as well that the smoke should come out straight, and then it should come down and it should fill the whole room, and therefore that's acceptable as well. That's the first pshat, and why the Braisa brings two psukim for the requirement of the ma'ila oshon. Gemara is going to bring another few pshatim here. Rav Shesha says, Einli ela oil mayit shebemidbar shile beis elamim. Again, let me read that again. Einli ela oil mayit shebemidbar. Reason that's bringing a second pasuk is because from the first pasuk, when it says that I would think that maybe that refers only to the oil mayid in the midbar. How do I know Shiloi or Beis Elamim, the Mishkan that was in Shiloi, or the Beis HaMikdash Minayin? From where do I know that you have to have the same thing of the ma'ila oshon and the smoke coming out as well? Talmud Loima v'chisa. That's the second pasuk to teach me that it's not only in the midbar, but it's also in Mishkan Shiloi and in the Beis HaMikdash. But the Gemara now asks on this question, it can't be. You don't need a separate pasuk for that. The fact that I do everything on Yom Kippur in the Beis HaMikdash the same, like it was done in the midbar, I learned from a different pasuk. That this is what's done in the Oil Mayed where the Eibishter dwells. So from Hashaykhin Itom, I learn out that wherever the Eibishter dwells, this is the way it has to be done, whether it's in the midbar, whether it's in the Beis HaMikdash. Ella, therefore the Gemara says the pshat is as follows. You need two psukim to teach me. Hachi ka'ama. This is what the Braisa meant to say. Ein liyelo b'yom kippurim. You add this ingredient of Maila Asham for the smoke to come out straight like a stick. Maybe that's only on Yom Kippur. From where do I know that you add this ingredient every day of the year to accomplish this? That's the second pasuk. The Torah says that a second time to tell me that it's done every day of the year. A third pshat the Gemara says, Rav Ashi Omar Chad LeMitzvah. The first pasuk is saying that it's a mitzvah to add this ingredient of Maila Asham. And v'chad la'akiv. The second time the Torah repeats it is to say that it's a must. It's not just a mitzvah, but without it, you're lacking the whole thing, and it's worthless. It's la'akiv. A fourth pshat the Gemara says, Rav Homa Chad la'einish. One pasuk is coming to tell you the einish. What happens if you don't add this Maila Asham? So the pasuk says v'lo yamos, that you'd be chayiv misa, and v'chad la'azhara. And one pasuk is coming to give you the warning that you should have to add this. And the pasuk says, "Va'al yove b'cholei salakodesh." It's telling you the azhara. Tanya. So we learned in Abraise, and like this last pshat over here. It says in Abraise, Rav Elazar Omer, "V'lo yamos einish." When the pasuk says "v'lo yamos," it's coming to tell you the einish. What happens if you're missing this ingredient? And when it says "ki ba'anon eiroah," that you should not come and you should only be there, bring the ketayres when it produces this smoke. Azhara, that's giving you the warning for this. Yachail, so now this Braisa continues and says, regarding these two psukim, when exactly did the Eibishter tell Moshe Rabbeinu these two psukim? I would think, Yu shnei mamurim, acha misas shnei b'nei Aaron. I skipped the line? Yeah, I did. So Yachal, I would think, Yu shnei mamurim, kaidem misas b'nei Aaron. That both of these psukim, that when you bring the ketayres, it should be brought with the Maila Asham. And the einish, if you don't, that you'd be chayiv misa. I would think that both of these psukim were said before the children of Aaron passed away. And Rashi explains what the Gemara means to say by this, that then I would say that the reason the children of Aaron were passed away is because they were warned before not to bring in the ketayres without the Maila Ashon, and they were told if they do, the einish would be that they would pass away, and they brought the ketayres without the Maila Ashon, and therefore they passed away. That's what happened. So no, we see, look in the pasuk, Talmud Loimar, Acharei Mois Shnei B'nei Aaron. That the Eibishter tells us to Moshe Rabbeinu already after B'nei Aaron passed away. So this can't be the reason why they passed away. But now the Gebraisa says, Yochel Yish Shneim Amurim Acha Misa Shnei B'nei Aaron. I would think that both of these psukim, the pasuk that requires to add the Maila Asham, and also the pasuk that says the einish, if you don't add it, I would think both of them were said after they passed away. Talmud Loimar, but the pasuk says ki be'onon eiroe el akapayres, and from this pasuk I see that it was said before they passed away. As the Gemara is going to explain in a moment how I see that. So therefore, the Gebraisa now explains, ha keitzad, when were these psukim said? Azhara kaidemisa, the warning. In other words, the mitzvah, the warning that you should add this ingredient, that was said to Moshe Rabbeinu before they passed away. But for einish, the einish that was said that if you don't add it, you'll be chayiv misa, that was said acha misa. That was only told to Moshe Rabbeinu after they passed away. Till there's the Braisa. But now the Gemara will explain, my Talmuda. How do I see from the pasuk ki ba'onon ei roa el akapayres that was said before Nadav and Avihu, before the Bnei Aaron passed away? Omar Rave, so Rav explains, because Omar Kra, the pasuk says, ki ba'onon ei roa, with a cloud I will be seen. The Eibishter says, I will be seen in the Beis HaMikdash, or in the Mishkan there. But that means Vadayin loy nira, that this pasuk is being said before the presence of the Shechina was seen in the Beis HaMikdash. In other words, it was on a Chodesh Nisan, before the Shechina came down yet, the first time, before the Shechina came down, and then the Eibishter is using the term Ei Roa in the future, that he will come down. If it would have said, if this would have happened after the Eibishter came down already, so it already says in the pasuk, Rashi here brings the pasuk, that they already saw. So it should have said in the past tense, referring to the Shechina, that already has been seen. So because it uses a lashon of eira in future tense, this shows you that this pasuk where it says the requirement to have the Maila Asham was said before. The einish was said later. So hakeitzad, we're holding over here. Okay, so therefore we see from here that the Azhara was said before, but the einish of Misa, that was only said after they passed away. So now the Gemara asks, if so, Velamai Tami Yonash. So what is the reason why they got the punishment of Misa? If they weren't told in advance that they're going to get a punishment of Misa, so they didn't deserve to get Misa. They didn't know that they weren't told that yet. So why did they die? Answer is Keditanya, like we learned in the Brayso Rabbi Lazar, like Meisa b'nei Aaron. The reason they died was El al Shahoiru Alacha b'fnei Moshe Rabba, not because of the Ketaitis that they brought in. They weren't told of Vanim Einish about that yet, but rather the reason is because they paskin the halacha in front of Moshe Rabbeinu the Rebbe. My daughters, where do we? What did they paskin? V'nosnu b'nei Aaron Akoyin Eish al Mizbeach, that the b'nei Aaron placed fire on the Mizbeach. What did they say? They said, even though the fire is coming down from heaven, so you have the ruchni is the heavenly fire, mitzvah lavi ben ahead yet. Nevertheless, there's also a mitzvah to bring a mundane fire here below onto the mizbeach. That's what they said. This is the halacha that they paskin in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. This was a true halacha. But nevertheless, they paskin this halacha in front of Moshe Rabbeinu, and for that itself they were chayiv misa. We go back to the Mishnah. What did it say? Yotzo bale derech nisase. When the Kohen Gadol comes out of the base of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he doesn't turn his back to the Aron and walk out. He remains facing the Aron and he backs out the same way he walked in. From where do I know this? Because there's a pasuk that says, "Vayovay Shloimeh lebama." Shloimeh HaMelech came to the Bama Asher beGivain, which was in the city of Givain, Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim. So the question is, Givain and Yerushalayim are two different places. V'chimayin Givain Eitzel Yerushalayim. What's Givain doing in Yerushalayim? If it's Givain, it's not Yerushalayim. If it's Yerushalayim, it's not Givain. Hello, the reason the pasuk is written this way, Makish Yitziyasei meGivain leYerushalayim. You compare the way he left from Givain to go back to Yerushalayim, Libiyasai Yerushalayim leGivain. The same way he arrived from Yerushalayim to Givain. This is before the Beis HaMikdash was built, and there was a Bama in Givain. So he's arriving to Givain. The way he left was the same way he arrived. Ma biyasai Yerushalayim leGivain. Just like when he arrived to the Bama from Yerushalayim to Givain, Panav Klape Bama, he was facing the Bama, coming towards the Bama there in Givain. Kederech biyasai. Some take out these two words; they seem to be extra. That's the way he came. Af yitziyasei meGivain Yerushalayim. So too, when he leaves from Givain away to go away from the Bama back to Yerushalayim, Panav Klape Bama Kederech biyasai. He's facing the Bama the same way he came. He's not turning his back to the Bama. And the same halacha applies also Kohanim Bavidasam. All the Kohanim, when they do their avodah, they walk away from the Mizbeach or from wherever it is. They should not back away, but they should be facing, walk back they should not walk with their back away, but they should be facing where they're walking away from. Leviim Buduchanam, same thing also the Leviim, when they go down from the stage where they duchen, they should also not walk with their back to the Beis HaMikdash. And Yisrael b'mamadim, the same thing also the Yidden that were there standing on the Karbanis. You always had by the Karbanis the Maimad of Yisraelim that stood there. They should always be facing the Beis HaMikdash. K'shehein niftarin, when they walk away, leihoyim machzirim pneim v'helchin, they would not turn their faces and walk away. Ela mitzadedim pneim v'helchin. As they were backing away, they would turn their head a little bit to see where they're going, and that's how they would walk away. The same halacha applies as well. Talmid haniftar mirabbai, a student that is departing from his teacher, lo yachsa panav v'yelech, he shouldn't turn his back and walk away. Ela mitzadet panav v'helech, he faces his teacher and tilts his head to the side to see where he's going, and that's how he walks away. Kihad Rabbi Lazar, like we see with how Rabbi Lazar used to do this. Kadav mifta minei Rabbi Yechanan, when he would depart from his teacher Rabbi Yechanan, kad have a boy Rabbi Yechanan l'zguye. So when Rabbi Yechanan would want to go away from him, have a gachin koi Rabbi Lazar duchte. Rabbi Lazar would sort of bow and remain standing on his place, and he would wait there until Rabbi Yechanan was fully gone and he was covered from his eyes. So first, Braisa brings two things. First, it talks about, it's not a Braisa, sorry, the Gemara brings two things. First, it talks about when Rabbi Yechanan left. When Rabbi Yechanan left, Rabbi Lazar would get up and stand respectfully at his place, bowing, and wait until Rabbi Yechanan is totally gone. And then, this is what's connected to what we just said, when Rabbi Lazar wanted to leave from Rabbi Yechanan, so he would walk and he would back away until Rabbi Yechanan was covered from his eyes, and then he would turn his back. Rava, when he would walk away from Rabbi Yosef, he would also back away and he would not see where he's going. And he would, it's so much so, he would bang his feet, and the threshold of Rav Yosef where he was got filled with blood from him injuring himself, from not looking where he was going. Unbelievable. And he didn't, so Amru Leila Rav Yosef, they told Rav Yosef about this. So Rashi here says that Rav Yosef was blind and he didn't realize what Rav is doing. He didn't see that Rav is injuring himself when he walks away. Hachi Yavid Rav, do you see what Rav is doing? Rav is hurting himself the way he's walking away from you. Amalei, so Rav Yosef said, Yehei Rava, the Traim Reishach Akula Kracha. It should be the will of Hashem that your head should be lifted above the whole city. In other words, you should become the Rosh Hashiva, which happened later, that Rav became the Rosh Hashiva. All in the schos that he had this tremendous honor for Rav Yosef, his teacher. Amar Rav Alexandri, Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi. So a similar halacha regarding going back and not turning your back to your teacher or to the Beis HaMikdash. It's also regarding davening. This is the source of Oisa Shalom, the way we finish Shmei Nesra. So Rav Alexandri said in the name of Rav Yeshua ben Levi, I'm a spalal when you daven Shmei Nesra and you're finished, so you don't just walk away. Tzarech sheyafsiya shalosh psiyas lachayrav. So you walk, you back away 3 steps going backwards. And then you can say shalom. That's what we do. We say Eisa shalom b'mraymav. Amalei Rav Mordechai. Rav Mordechai adds to this and says, Kivin shapasa shalosh psiyas la'chayrav. When you walk back Eisa shalom, hasam ibayale lemekem. You should remain standing there. You shouldn't just walk back and then immediately come back to where you came from. Don't immediately go back to your place, but you have to remain standing there in your place. For how long do you have to remain standing there in the place? There are different minhagim that are brought in Shulchan Aruch. Our minhag is, and the minhag that's brought in Shulchan Aruch, to wait until the chazan comes to an akdishah. Right? That's how the Rebbe used to do it as well. What happens if you're davening via chidus and you're not waiting for chazaras hashatz? How long are you supposed to wait at the place where you came back by Yisra Shalom? So there's also different shittis and paiskin, but the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch says you should wait until the amount it takes to walk 4 amas, which is not long. It's basically like 10 seconds. You have to wait there, or maybe even less. You wait a little bit. You don't just go Yisra Shalom and immediately run back. That's not derech eretz. You walk away, and then you wait, and then you slowly come back. And the Gemara gives an example for this. Mashal Talmud aniftem rabbi. So like a student that's departing from his teacher, if he departs and in chayzel alter, if he comes immediately back, so then it's not honorable. It's like a dog that is vomited and then he comes back immediately to eat up his vomit. So it's a disgusting behavior. The same thing also if you're departing from your teacher, so then don't come back immediately, you wait, and then you come back slowly if you have to come back. So that's the appropriate behavior, and that's the halacha and the minhag by Yisra Shalom ben Braymav. Another detail about the way this is done, Tanya Namiyachi, we learned in the Brayis HaMespal, Tzarech she'afsiya shalosh psiyas la'chayrev, you go back 3 steps, V'achakach yitnu shalom, and then you say the Yisra Shalom, V'im lo yosek came, and if you don't finish davening Shmei Nesra this way, you just finish davening, you walk away, it would be better not to daven, if you don't walk away in a respectful way. Mishum, Rav Shmaya Amru, and the name of Rav Shmaya it was said, Shenoisen Shalom li Yamin. First, you tilt your head towards the right. You say Yisra Shalom to the right. V'achkach l'smoil, then to the left. The Gemara is going to explain soon what's right and what's left. And why first to the right? Shenema, because the pasuk says, Mimina eish das lomei. The Eibishter gives the Torah from his right hand, so the right hand is stronger. V'ayimir, in another pasuk it says, Yipo mitzritcha elef, that from the Eibishter's side, 1,000 fall, or Ruvava, and 10,000 miminecha. 10,000 fall on your right side. So again, we see the right side of the Eibishter is stronger. My Vaimer, why is it bringing a second pasuk to prove this? Because the first pasuk is not necessarily a proof, because maybe it's just the custom that you usually give with your right hand, just like a person uses his right hand because it's a stronger hand. So that's what the Eibishter gave the Torah with his right hand. But it doesn't mean that the Eibishter's right hand is on a higher level. Toshama, that's why it brings a second pasuk, that the right hand is more powerful, and there it's therefore you say Yisra Shalom to the right first. Now the Gemara explains, so what exactly is right and left? Whose right and left are we talking about? So Rava saw Abaye, the Yoav Shlom Yemina Bereisha, that he tilted towards his head towards the right first, and then towards the left. Amalei, so Rava said to Abaye, Mi savris liyimin didach. Do you think that this means that first you go to the right side, it refers to your right, and l'smail means also didach, to your left? Kamina, that's what I meant to say. No, what l'smail didach kamina the havi yiminoi shel hakadosh baruch hu. Okay, let me read that again. L'smail didach kamina. What I meant to say is your left. The havi yiminoi shel hakadosh baruch hu, which is the Eibishter's right. That's what I meant to say. It's not your right. Who cares about your right? The point is the Eibishter's right, which is really your left. And that's our minhag. When we say Yisra Shalom, It's first to the left and then to the right. Okay, but I believe our minig actually is that by Shmei Nesra. Only by Shmei Nesra, so you go first to the left, then to the right, then to the center. Right? But by Kaddish, it's first to the right, then to the left, and then to the center. I saw that Abaye and Rave, that when they went Oisa Shalom, so they went 3 psiyos, B'kriya Achas, they bow down their head and they say Oisa Shalom. Right? So they're standing up, as they're saying Oisa Shalom, they bow down their head and they go and they back out from the Shmei Nesra. Okay, now the Gemara comes back to what it said in the Mishnah, Mispalol, Tefillah, Ketzara, B'bayis Achitzin. That when the Kohen Gadol davens on Yom Kippur in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he's actually davening outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, but he davens a very short tefillah. Now, my matzti, what is it that the Kohen Gadol says?
Outside?
In the Heichel, not outside in the Azar, in the Heichel. So what does he daven? Rav Baravada, Rav Baravada, Tavai Mishmei de Rav, Omri, they both said in the name of Rav that the Kohen Gadol davens, the Omri, so they said as follows, Yiratzim u'fanecha Hashem Elokeinu, may it be the will of the Eibishter, Shetehei Shonezu Kshuma U'Shchuna. This year should be a rainy year and also a hot year. In fact, the Gemara Shchuna Ma'al Yasihi, that it should be hot. That's a mila. Rain you need for the everything to grow in the field. But what is the mila of it being hot? Elo Ema, this is the way you read it. Im Shchuna, if it's going to be hot, so that could dry up everything in the field. Tehegu Shuma, there should be extra rain for everything to grow. So they basically the main thing the Kohen Gadol daven for is rain. They should have the food. He added to this tefillah in the name of Rav Yehuda and said that the Kohen Gadol would say, Lo Ya'adi Avid Shultan Mid the Beis Yehuda, that the Shultan, the rulership from the house of Yehuda should not be removed from the Yidden. And the Yidden should not have to rely on one another to beg money from one another for their panos. Everyone should have what they need. And now the third thing, he added also that the tefillah, that the people that are traveling on the way, they should not listen to their tefillah. What are the people traveling on the way? They don't want it to rain. So the people that daven that it should not rain, the Eibusher should not listen to their tefillah. So the Gemara now brings a story of Rab Chanina ben Daisa. Rab Chanina ben Daisa, he was traveling on the way. Shoda mitra lei, it began raining. Omar, so he says, Rebbeinu Shalayla, Master of the universe, Kol Olam Kulei Benachas, everyone in the world enjoys this rain, but Chanina Bitzar, your son Chanina has pain because he's traveling in the way. Pasak Mitra, the rain stopped. Kiyasala Beisa, when he got home, Omar, he said, Rebbeinu Shalayla, Master of the universe, Kol Olam Kulei Bitzar, all of the world is in tsar, they're suffering, they don't have the rain they need for their fields. The Chanina Benachas, and I'm happy. Rashi says Chanina did not have anything that was planted in his field. He didn't need the rain. But now Chanina was davening. Once he was home, he was asking the Eibusher, let it rain for everybody for what they need. Asa Mitra, and it began raining. Yeah, so this was Rab Chanina, that we see how powerful the tefillah of Rab Chanina ben Daisa was, that even though the Kohen Gadol davened in the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur, and the Eibusher usually listened to the Kohen Gadol, but Rab Chanina's tefillah was more powerful than the Kohen Gadol. That's why the Gemara is saying this. And the Mefarshim here say that you must say that when Chanina davened that the rain should stop when he was going on the way, it was at the time in the season where the people in the field didn't mamish need the rain yet. If they would mamish need the rain, Reb Chanina would not be so selfish to daven that he should be dry and everyone else's produce in the field should not grow. It was earlier in the season, and he knew he's getting home soon, and then when he's going to get home, he's going to daven for the Eibishter for the rain to continue. Amar Rav Yosef. Maya Hanilate Sloisa, the Kohen Gadol Legabe Reb Chanina ben Daisa. So what does the tefillah of the Kohen Gadol help for a person like Reb Chanina ben Daisa? His tefillah is more powerful than the Kohen Gadol. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Braise, Ma'aseh b'Kohen Gadol echad sheherech b'tfilas. There was once an incident with the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur that he davened longer. And v'nimnu echav ha'kohenim likanis achrov. And then they were discussing with each other, and they decided that they're going to go in to see what happened with him. As they were about to go in, and he came out. They said to the Kohen Gadol, why did you daven so long? So the Kohen Gadol answered them, is it difficult for you? I'm davening for your sake. And I'm davening for the Beis HaMikdash that it shouldn't be destroyed. But they said to the Kohen Gadol, don't do this. Shaninu, we learned that the Kohen Gadol should not daven very long when he's inside, not to scare the Yidden. They shouldn't think what happened to the Kohen Gadol. So this is the source of the reason why we don't daven, why the Kohen Gadol doesn't daven long inside. Okay.
Slap them out, no?
Huh?
You have to slap them.
Zok the Mishnah, going back to what we learned before about inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, so the Kohen Gadol comes in and he places down the Keteiras where? Between the two poles of the Aron. So now the Gemara discusses what happens in the Mishnah, discusses what happens in the second base of Mikdash where there was no Aron. When the Aron was taken away, so then Even Haisa Sham, there was a stone there. Mimais Neviim Rishainim, from the times of the earlier Neviim. Ushesiya Haisa Nekras, and the name of this stone is called Shesiya, which means that the whole world was created from this stone. Mimeno Hushsas Kolaylam Kulay. So there was this stone there. Gavayim and Aretz Shalosh its boys, and it's raised above the ground 3 finger breadths. Va'aleh Haya Noisen, and that's where the Keteiras was placed on. So this is the conclusion of the halachas of how the Kohen Gadol brought the Keteiras in Yom Kippur. Now the Mishnah continues with the next part of the Aveda, which is the spraying of the blood of the Karbanis, and the blood was actually also sprayed inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Mishnah will say the order of how this was done. So the first thing is, he took the blood of the bull that he shechted first, and it was given to another kohen to mix it, that it shouldn't congeal. So now he came back and took this blood from the one that was mixing it. Nichnas l'makim shenichnas, he enters into the same place where he entered before to bring the keteiras. So he enters now with the blood there. V'amad b'makim sha'amad, and he stands in the same place between the baden, in the same place where he stood before. And v'hizam imenu, and now he sprays from the blood there on the kapeiras, on the cover of the aron. And he sprays achas l'mayla, 1 up, v'sheva l'mata, and 7 going down. V'loyhoyim eskaven la'azis loy l'mayla v'loy l'mata, and he doesn't have to be exact to spray it that the 1 should go on the top part of the keteiras and the 7 should go on the bottom part of the keteiras. Elo kematzlif. But you do it kematzlif, which refers to the way the malchus is done. When you give malchus, so malchus, you start with the top of the person's back and you keep on going down. So same thing over here. It doesn't have to be precise, but he starts on the top and he keeps on going down. This is how the Kohen Gadol would count when he did this zikr. Achas. First he did the achas, 1 going up. And then achas v'achas. He sprayed 1 down, so he counted 1 and 1. Achas v'shtayim, achas v'shalosh, achas v'arba, achas v'chomish, achas v'sheish, achas v'sheheva. He counted the 1 and 7, as we say it on Yom Kippur, right? So that's the first blood that he brought in from the par. Then Yotza v'hinichai al kan azav shebeheichel, took out that blood and he placed it on some kind of a base to hold this blood inside the heichel. And now he would go out into the Azara. They brought him the goat that was they made the goyrolis, right? And there was one goat that was brought a chatos la Hashem for the Yidden, for Klal. So now he shechted this goat. Shachta, he shechted it, v'kibul b'mizrak as damai, and received the blood in a bowl. Nichnas l'makim shenichnas. Now he takes this blood from this soil and he enters again into the same place, into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'amad b'makim she'amad. He stands in the same place, and v'hizam imenu, and he sprays there again with the blood. Achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. And v'kacha yamayna. This is how he counted. Achas v'achas, achas v'shtayim v'chulu. He repeats the same thing again with the blood of this soil. Yotza, he comes out from the Kodesh HaKadoshim. V'hinichel kanazav asheni shebehechel. There was a second place to hold this blood from the soil, because this blood is going to have to be used again. This blood, as we'll see here in the Mishnah, was sprayed 3 times. Once inside by the Arain, once against the Kapeiras, the curtain, and the 3rd time on the Mizbeach Hazav. So they left both bloods over there inside the Heichel. Now according to the Tanakama, they had 2 holders, 2 separate holders for the blood. One for the blood of the par, and one for the blood of the soil. Rabbi Yehuda says, there was only 1 holder there. And not al dama par v'iniach dama soil. When he came out with the blood from the goat, so he picked up the blood from the bull, and instead he placed in there the blood of the soil. And now he took the blood from the par, from the bull, and now he sprays again from it against the arayin mibachutz on the outside. And again he does achas lamayla v'shav lamata v'loyim eskaven v'chulu and v'kacha yamayna, the same exact thing, 1 above and 7 down, same thing like before. The pareiches of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Outside the pareiches.
He's standing in the Kodesh.
He's standing in the Kodesh, in the Heichel, and he sprays towards the Kapeiros, right? Then he does the same thing again with the blood from the goat. Notel dam asoy, takes the blood from the goat. V'niach dam apar, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, on that very same holder, he places down the dam from the par. V'hiza mimenu ala pareches shekeneged ha'arayin, he sprays on the pareches that's covering the arayin mibachutz at the outside. Achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata v'chula. And then the final time you take this blood and you spray it is on the mizbeach hazahav. Ira dam apar l'toich dam asoy. Now you mix them together. And you place the empty one into the full one. What this means is, the Gemara is going to explain, it means that when they mix the blood, they have to mix it very well. So they would pour it back and forth from the empty one to the full one in order that it should be mixed well. And then after it's mixed well, as we'll see the continuation, they sprayed it on the Mizbeach itself. So let's just conclude over here the Gemara here. So the Gemara explains regarding the pshat what the Mishnah said. So what did the Mishnah say? The first words in the Mishnah were Mishnitol Aron. They took away, once the Aron was taken away. So then there was this rock that was there in the Kodesh Kodashim. So the Gemara says, Mishnignaz like a tani. It doesn't say nignaz, which would mean that the Aron was hidden below the ground. Ela Mishnital, it says it was taken away. So Tanan, that's what it says. So Ela Mishnital. So Tanan, Commander Omar, Aron, Golol Babel. So the Mishnah here is following the opinion that says that the Aron was actually exiled into Babel. Not like the opinion that we learned yesterday that Yeshua Melech hid it under the ground. The Tanya and Abraisa we learned. Rabbi Eliezer's opinion is that Aron Golol Babel. The Aron went to Babel. Shenema Olitshuvah Sashana at the turn of the year. Shalach HaMelech Nebuchadnezzar. The king Nebuchadnezzar sent his army, Vayiviyeo Bavela, and they brought them to Bavel, Im Kli Chemdas Beis Hashem, and with this precious keli in the house of Hashem, which refers to the Aron. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Elazar. It was actually brought to Bavel. Aron gal Bavel. Yes, he also agrees the Aron was brought to Bavel, and he brings a different pasuk. Shenema v'lo yivaser dvar v'lo yivaser davar Omar Hashem. Nothing will remain, the Eibishter says. What is davar referring to? Elu aseres adibris shabai. This refers to the Aron that has the luchis inside with the aseres adibris. Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish says no. Aron nigna ben kaimei nignas. The Aron was hidden there under the Kodesh HaKadoshim in its place. Shenema, it says v'yiro rashi abadim in haKodesh al pnei dvir v'lo yiro achutza. And then it says v'yiyu sham ad ayoyim azeh. And the Aron remains there until today's day. So therefore, according to him, it remains there, but it's in the bottom, hidden under the ground.